Church membership. Okay, this is going to be a one that can ruffle some feathers. This is a pretty complex conversation, so I'm going to zoom back a little bit first, give some framework for thinking, and then I'll tell you how we try to live this out in accordance with how the Spirit has led us with Radius Greenville. So first, maybe the reason for some of the confusion is there's two different attitudes or definitions towards membership that happen within our society. There's one that's more of an association, okay? And so what this is if you wanted to be a member at Sam's Club, or a member at Costco, because you don't want one bag of potato chips, you want 75 bags at once. And so you're going to join one of these groups. And when you join, you're going to sign a form, you're going to commit to pay regularly, and then you're going to get to enjoy the goods and services of that particular group because you're associated with that group. Now, if you stay at Sam's for a year or two and you're very loyal to shop there, but you find out Costco's got some better sales, then you might end up kind of like, transferring your membership from Sam's over to Costco. And then if you're at Costco for a few years and suddenly Sam's got some really cool, motorized shopping carts that just have their own pull engines and you just kind of ride them around real fast, you might go, hey, I'm gonna come back over to Sam's. And so this is one concept of membership. It's a membership by association. And there's no relationship. No one really notices when you come and go. And it's not a lot of cost involved, but there's not a lot of meaning to it either, right? Then you have another understanding of membership that's really the antithesis of that. It's the idea of deep relationship and deep meaning, but also some deep cost. This is something where if you were going to pick an analogy here, it would be something like if a family were going to adopt a 15-year-old child, into their family, let's say, then that 15-year-old, has the ability to really discern, do I want to be bound to this family? Do I want them to be the ones that I'm now connected to and cohabitating with? And the family has to make the same decisions. Are we willing to take the privilege, the responsibility of now not just another seat at the table, but another human being that unites with us? And it's going to, the child being adopted is going to shift the family a lot. The family is going to shift the child's life a lot. It's all going to be a lot of cost, a lot of risk. But man, the payoff, the meaningfulness, the depth of what it means to be a family member in a family, that's huge, tremendous. So as we within Radius Greenville look at the scriptures, we find that the concept of membership in the New Testament would implicitly and explicitly lead us to this kind of an idea. So the explicit use of member in 1 Corinthians 12, which seems to be where most of American church culture kind of gets its kind of ideas from, is that Paul has taken a human body, right? That's his analogy. This is human body, and it's got an arm and leg, and it's got, all these different parts, but there's not a disassociation or a loose association with each other. There's instead a deep connection with each other. So the hand has to understand the foot, the arm has to understand the elbow, it all has to work together, because that's the whole point of 1 Corinthians 12, that every part understands each other, every part knows how to operate, in tandem with one another. And that picture is a deep relational connection, not only from the body parts to the head, which is Jesus, but the body parts to one another. That's what Paul's going after. And so what he's pointing is a membership that has deep meaning, deep cost, deep risk, but deep results. And as you look at the rest of text, you would kind of come up with the same thing, we think, is that, you look at an example like 1 Corinthians 5 is a very illuminating, chapter where Paul is looking at somebody who's in one particular church. They're a member of a church, and they're in sin. But Paul's rebuke really isn't to the person in sin. His rebuke is to the church itself and how they're not responding with responsibility towards the person in sin. So he's actually correcting and rebuking how the family is not really producing a member-like, relationship with the participant in the church who's in sin. And so that's his concept. He's saying, be more of a spiritual family. Take more ownership for another. It needs to be deeper, more meaningful in how you interact. So with Radius, we try to take our cues from this concept quite a bit. And so what we do is, if you are a part of Radius, if you're a member of the network, it means you've first become, and really it ties itself to mean the equivalent of, that you have become a member of a particular church within the network. So that means there's a particular group of people that you have connected with, that you have maybe spent some time sort of vetting what the Lord does in you as you're around these people, as you journey with these people for a little while, and they have been doing the same. They've been asking the question, is this person, pursuing Jesus, the same Jesus that we're all trying to look at, and is this person, are they wanting the same vision, the same maturity for their lives that we're going for? And so there's a deep, connection there if the membership does cross that line. If you say, I want to be a member of this body, this expression of Jesus, I want to be the arm that works with that leg, then that, once that line is crossed, there's deep meaning to that. There's deep, not just association, but deep relationship with one another. And as that occurs, as you join in with any particular church, and there's usually somewhat of a kind of a line that gets crossed at some point, sort of like a ceremonial, official kind of time where we say, all right, this feels good and beneficial in the Lord, that we would take responsibility for each other, that you would be part of this existing community, this existing church. You'd be a body part that comes into this body of Christ. As that happens, by default, you're automatically a part of the larger Radius network. That is, to be a member of any given expression of a church within a network, it means that you are utilizing the resources, the elder, the pastor is connected to. All of that by default means that you suddenly, become somebody that the elders fight for in prayer, that the staff now wants to resource and support, and now you become considered as a member of this particular body, that this body pairs with lots of other bodies to form together a network of churches. So there's deep meaning, relationally in that individual unit, but there is an association that comes from that with the network as a whole. And so that's the way we practice membership within the network of Radius Greenville.